And then understand who manufactures the solution. Contract manufacturing is absolutely the way of the world these days. Some people manufacture some things in-house, but I can absolutely guarantee you that there is nobody that doesn't use some level of contract manufacturing at some point. Apple manufactures nothing. Cisco manufactures nothing. They all contract that out. And so when you find out who manufactures it, then in some cases you can go directly to that manufacturer and provide yourself some benefit. But you at least want to know which part they have control over, right? Because if you don't know where the stuff comes from, you don't know where that level of control can hurt you. Right now with the tariffs that are going on, there's companies that are postponing projects because they're waiting to see if the tariffs disappear before they pay that premium for stuff that's coming from certain countries, or they're moving contract manufacturing from one country to another, and there's going to be a lag in the time that it takes for those products to be available, now manufactured from that other country. Understand what those rebates are. Those should be yours. If it's your project and your money that are getting those rebates 100% of the time should be yours. And then figure out who's influencing all of these decisions. You know, in some cases, like I said, I had one customer one time, another manufacturer bought them a four-wheeler. Guess whose stuff they bought? It wasn't mine. I didn't buy them a four-wheeler. Nobody bought me a four-wheeler either. But there are a lot of that, you know, that happens. It's somebody's brother-in-law, it's somebody's best friend. We all work to build relationships, and at the end of the day, we try to keep those relationships so that, you know, people have a hard time saying no. Every manufacturer, every vendor has a budget for that, to do just that. And we want to set up vendor interviews. So when we talk about our different vendors, and assuming that we've done an RFI process, we need a scorecard so that we can decide what these vendors know and what that does for our solution. And any RFI should precede an RFQ. And an RFI is a request for information. It's the easiest way to shortcut all of the noise and get the answers to exactly what you need. And I've got sample RFIs I'm happy to send you guys if you want. Just, like I said, give me a card or shoot me an email. It'll at least get you started. But if you start this process early enough, you're not reacting, you're being very proactive, and you're seeing what's available on the market, and you can compare what one solution does to the other. When you get the RFIs all back in and you decide, okay, these 3 or 4 manufacturers, this stuff looks pretty cool. This is different. I've not heard anything about this one before, but I would like to bring them in for interviews. Have them tell you about the solutions. Bring in the engineers. Have them kick the tires. And have everybody that's involved in the data center sit in that room when you do it. Best way to do it. Because then, you know, it's not like when you ask your dad if you can go out on a Friday night and he tells you to go ask your mom, and then your mom tells you to go ask your dad. If you have them all in the same room, it's much easier. Plus, everybody now takes stake in the solution, and everybody takes stake in the process. And so there's no, you know, everybody's working towards a common goal. And it's a great way to cross-train people too. You know, when you have a very diverse department or you have people that are very siloed, a lot of times they kind of live in their own world and they don't really know what happens outside of it. If you make them part of that process, then they realize, oh, if I do put blade servers in, it is going to require more power and cooling. So maybe facilities doesn't need to be the last guy to know every time, right? And so it definitely helps. And then they might have input too. You know, if you say, well, look, this is great. I think we're going to go with, we've done this rack RFP and we're going to go with these racks. They're great. The server guys might come in and say, hey, we need 192 cables. They're not going to fit in that rack. So before you fit out the whole data center with that, it's good to have that other input. And then you might have the facilities people that say, well, look, if you're going to put that load in this cabinet, our room can't support it, so now we need to look at containment. And then it becomes a whole project, and nobody has adverse budget reactions because somebody didn't consult them and they weren't a piece of the pie. And that happens way too much, way too much. And then we need to figure out what's nice to have and what's necessary to have. Everybody wants a tier 4 data center till they get the price tag. And then it's like, oh, well, maybe not so much. So then it's tier 3. And now it's even worse because most of our IT systems are completely redundant. So if this server fails over to this server, do they both need 2 power supplies and 2 network connections? The answer is probably not. And so every time that you move power, there's a waste associated with that. If we start including IT in some of those conversations, then we can figure out which systems really require that level because they'll be able to tell us what the risk is of that system going down. right? And so now you see this ecosystem starts building itself. And that's really where we want to get to. So when we bring the vendors in, we ask them what happens in all of these scenarios, and we let them do rapid fire what happens in all these scenarios. And then we get better solutions.